Group 3, Wildfires and Climate Change by Trevor, Shayal, Tiana, and Kegan. The challenge our group underwent was to spread and raise awareness on how anthropocentric climate change is causing more frequent and intense wildfires around the world, and also what could be done to reduce the risk of these wildfires and the damages associated with them. Climate change has caused more frequent and extreme weather events around the globe due to prolonged changes in temperatures and conditions. These prolonged changes include increased temperatures and droughts, which dry out landscape and vegetation, which then leads to more favorable conditions for wildfires to ignite and spread far distances. Wildfires are sparked by both natural means, such as lightning strikes, or from human actions, such as campfires, unfortunate gender reveal parties, throwing out cigarette butts, and other reckless acts. In recent years, we've been seeing unprecedented fire seasons, with CAL FIRE and other federal sources reporting that there's been over 4.3 million acres of land burned in 2020, and currently over 3 million acres of land burned in 2021.
Next, we'll be looking at a clip from PBS NewsHour, where they interview Leah Stocks, who is a professor and researcher on climate, energy, and political policy at the University of Santa Barbara.
And what scientists are telling us is that we are entering a period of mega fires where the scale of burning is just beyond what we've seen before. So, as you mentioned, we're seeing really large fires, and there isn't any reason to believe that that will stop because we are not taking the climate crisis seriously and we are not reducing fossil fuel emissions around the world. So, California really is a canary in the coal mine here, and we need to be waking up. And just as the bird was dying from coal, we too are dying from burning coal, oil, and fossil gas.
Our first step was to actually take a step back and look into how indigenous people of North America used controlled burns to maintain ecosystems, clear out fuel loads, and lessen the intensity of naturally sparked wildfires for hundreds of years. Prior to the 1800s, indigenous people would intentionally burn thousands to even millions of acres of land a year. The fire seasons that they faced were almost as large as what we're facing now, with the only difference being a large portion of it was using the low grade and low temperature burns during the colder and wetter winter months, which helped the native tribes shape landscapes and influence the growth of certain plants. The native people respected the land and they understood what needed to be done in order for ecosystems to thrive and for them to have a fair amount of game also enter the area. So these burns were cultural and spiritual practices that were often only conducted after a blessing and after harvesting any berries and different branches to make baskets from the area. Unfortunately, due to the displacement, murder, and banning of indigenous people and their cultural practices, the use of controlled burns fell drastically, and things switched from more of a forest management system to a fire suppression system where we more so only go in when a fire has started rather than trying to prevent the large fires from happening. Controlled burns have multiple purposes and benefits, and although they'll likely never reach the level of benefit as once before with the native tribes, in recent years, a few of Northern California tribes, such as the Yurok and Karuk, have teamed up with CAL FIRE to conduct controlled burns in certain areas that are at risk for wildfire.
Our second step was to learn about what exactly is causing these wildfires to become more severe every year. So wildfire risk depends on several factors, such as temperature, soil moisture, and the presence of trees, shrubs, and other potential fuel. These specific factors have a strong connection to climate change. Global warming enhances the drying organic matter in these forests. That drying organic matter is the material that burns and spreads wildfire, and it leads to more extreme weather events. Change in climate creates warmer, drier conditions, which causes increased drought and longer fire seasons that are a boost and an increase of wildfire. These warmer temperatures and drier surroundings cause fires to spread more rapidly and make it much harder to be put out. A study had showed that an average annual 1 degree Celsius temperature increase would increase the median burned area per year as much as 600% in some types of forests. With these warmer conditions that cause these increase of droughts, these droughts cause a lot of vegetation to die, therefore leaving a lot of brush lying around that can easily light up. So the tiniest spark can start a massive fire just because of all that brush. Land use and forest management also has a huge effect on wildfire risk. And the smoke and carbon that is released into the air from these fires act to accelerate further warming and temperature rise.
Step 3 was to raise awareness. Our goal was to have more people to be aware of the dangers that wildfires can cause to the environment and wildlife. One of the best ways to implement this goal was to create multiple social outlets to connect with people and to inform them on the issues of wildfires. Our group made an Instagram account called Fire Prevention, and this account was made to share knowledge about the impacts that wildfires can have on the environment and wildlife, as well as sharing prevention methods that can help to lessen the impacts that wildfires can cause. There were posts made to target different aspects of fire prevention. For example, there were posts about the effects of climate change on wildfires, how the indigenous people use controlled burns to modify landscapes, and how communities can help to prevent wildfires. We are hoping for more interactions to occur once the account gets shared enough times.
Another way we attempted to get engagement with the community was by creating the subreddit Fire Prevention. We also would make multiple posts about controlled burns and other tactics of fighting wildfires. And while it was hard to get engagement with some of the posts and to get people to join the community, I did cross-post a poll to the subreddit of Santa Rosa, which is where I live and is a city greatly affected by wildfires. We conducted just a basic poll about whether people were in support of the use of controlled or prescribed burns to reduce fuel loads and risk of wildfires. And although the poll is probably a little bit skewed because the people of the Santa Rosa area are pretty aware of wildfires and controlled burns, it was good to see that over 200 people were in support of using controlled burns, while only 4 people said that they wouldn't want to see them used at all. We also got a few comments on the poll of somebody who personally lost his own house in one of the big fires and would like to see more controlled burns take place, and a couple other people who agreed that controlled burns should be used more often, as well to aid native plants in removing invasive species. And there was another former SFSU student that lived in Santa Rosa also, and he's been through 4 of like the fire seasons and has had to get evacuated multiple times.
In addition to the Reddit poll, we also created a survey asking the public's opinion on wildfires and climate change. And the goal of this survey was to use the data gathered to assess public opinion regarding our topic. And to the left, we have some of the results obtained from our public opinion survey. One of the questions we asked was, are you aware of the ecological impacts associated with climate change and wildfires? In which we got 88.2% of responses saying yes, and a little bit above 11% saying no, which was very promising to us because it just shows that the people, at least who respond to this, are aware of the ecological impacts. Another question we asked was, are you aware of the conservation efforts in your own community regarding climate change and wildfires? In which we had a little bit above 50% saying yes, and around 35% saying no, and 11% saying maybe. With this, to us, it was just showed that there needs to be a little bit more awareness and education being made as far as keeping the public and the citizens just educated and informed on what's going on as far as the conservation efforts. Another question we asked was, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being top priority, how do you rate the issue of wildfires? With the majority rating it a 5. So that was pretty good to see as far as people caring about the problem of wildfires. The results obtained from this survey were good because it showed that people are aware of this issue, but as we learned from this project, there is still much work to be done surrounding this issue overall. As far as us declaring whether our solution was a success or not, to us, the solution was determined to be a success because our implementation plan of using social media allowed us to reach the target audience, which was the general public, and engage with them, which we thought brought more support and shows more support for conservation methods and overall awareness of the issue. Not only did social media prove to be a valuable solution for our challenge, but we also got the chance to spread awareness through public engagement and feedback comments surrounding this issue. And this project test will be ongoing as we continue to fight climate change and wildfires. We will continue to use our social media resources to push our message to the public and informing them of how they too can play a part in battling this issue. And all together we can overcome this challenge and preserve our lands for future generations and ourselves.